Morning. Welcome to Coffee and the Word. When I was just a kid, I used to ride a bus to school every day. And there were some other kids on the bus who always picked on me. They were older kids, and they would push me and they would shove me and they would call me names and they'd flick my ear and give me wet willies, if you know what that is. And I remember I got fed up with it, but I wasn't strong enough to do anything about it. And so I told him, I said, my brother is going to stop you. I might have said my brother's going to kick your butt, but I don't remember. But my whole point was, my brother, who is older than me, who is stronger than me, who I look up to, he's going to stop this assault on me. And I remember they mocked me because I told them that several times, and they would mock me. And I said, where's your brother? Where's your brother? and I finally went home and I told my brother. I was like, there's these older kids on the bus that are picking on me all the time, and they won't leave me alone. And so my brother rode the bus with me the next day. It was amazing. Just my brother's presence changed their attitude. But my brother made sure that they never picked on me again. You know, one of the things that I think we fail to realize is that God does the same thing for us. You know, sometimes we feel like we have to fight and scrape and scramble and defend ourselves, and when in fact that's not at all what the psalmist says. Listen to the psalmist in Psalms chapter 3. I love this story because the psalm starts in chapter 3 and it says, a psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again, because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. I know that, especially in times like this, it feels like you're just hemmed in on every side. You're hemmed in from all of your frustrations and your fears. And maybe some of you are hemmed into bad situations and you don't know where to turn. You don't know what the answer is. You don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. You don't know what is faithful and what is just fearful. And I find it interesting that in David's psalm, when he's fleeing his son Absalom, his first initial way of approaching God is, how many are my foes? Like, how many are there that are after me? Why, when I serve you, are there so many people who assault me and assail me? In fact, he goes a little bit further and he says, how many rise up against me? My dog does not like the train. I thought about editing this out, but I thought, you know what? I'll let you find out what it's like to have coffee and the word when a train goes by. So anyway, he says, how many rise up against me? How many saying of me, many are saying of me, the Lord will not deliver me. And you know, one of the things that I find interesting is that we experienced a very similar mocking from people. You know, maybe the mocking isn't, the Lord will not deliver you. But the mocking is, what are you going to do? I mean, I'm sure that most of you know people who aren't servants of God. And they tend to believe that the answer to all the problems is some scientific response or some military response or some active response in some way. And, you know, David is recognizing that his foes are beyond his capabilities. It reminds me of a story in the Old Testament, in 2 Kings chapter 6, when Elisha is surrounded by armies. And, he gets up, and I always imagined he gets up and he goes out on the balcony. He's drinking his coffee, and his servant comes up and sees these armies of people ready to assail them. How many are my foes? And it's interesting that Elisha, just sipping his coffee, enjoying his day, looks out and has no angst or no fear. And his servant is just beside himself afraid. And I love what Elisha says, Lord, open his eyes that he may see. And when his servant's eyes are open, he sees chariots of fire surrounding them, protecting them from the enemies that assail them. It's a really cool story. And I think that we need to learn that we don't have to defend ourselves on every turn. In fact, Jesus says that when someone comes and smites you on your left cheek, give them your right also. If someone takes your cloak, give them your tunic also. If someone makes you walk a mile with them, go with them too. And what Jesus' point in all of that is look, guys, you don't have to live your life in defense of yourself. God sees what's happening. You can rest in the confidence that God can handle it. When those boys were messing with me and pushing me and shoving me, there was nothing I could do. My mom wouldn't let me not ride the bus because that would have been too burdensome for her to try to get me to school. I couldn't fight back. They were bigger than me. They were stronger than me. I told the bus driver, but he seemed to be less interested about it than I was, or concerned about it than I was. And then I called on my big brother. And when my big brother showed up, peace came to my life. I was able to ride the bus from there on out, not because my brother was sitting next to me, but because the knowledge that my brother was always with me. The same is true of you and I. You don't have to surrender to the reality that the things that are assaulting you are greater than your ability to deal with them. The really cool thing about God is He will allow you to be burdened beyond your capability to bear. But He won't burden you beyond His ability to help you bear it. And I think that's a really important point, because we're talking about this theme this week is shalom, peace. And I want you to understand that sometimes that peace comes from the knowledge that God will deliver. Maybe He hasn't done it yet, but He will. So let's go a little bit further. And He says, but you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and He answers me from His holy mountain. There was a movie a while back, and I can't remember the name of it, but in the movie, there was a scene where this reporter is going in to interview this killer. And while he's interviewing the killer grabs him around the throat, and he asks him, what have I taken from you? And the guy goes, my freedom. No. What have I taken from you? And he says, control. He's like, no. And he says, what have I taken from you? My illusion of control. You see, one of the things that we're going to learn, if you haven't already learned it, there's not much we control in this life. I mean, there's some things we can mitigate. There's some things that we can set up. There's some things we can do in this life to make this life better. But we're never going to control this life. Enemies are going to assail us. Foes are going to rise up against us. And the sooner we come to the realization that God sustains me, God lifts my head, God is the shield around me. As soon as we get there, then we can lie down and sleep, and we can wake again. How many of you have trouble sleeping at night because of the worries and the woes that are coming at you? You lay down your head at night and things assault your mind, and they assault your sensibilities, and you worry about the things that are coming tomorrow. That's not a life of peace. That's a life of turmoil. It's not a life of faith. That's a life of fear. And so he finishes this. He says, I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord. Deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. The sooner we become completely dependent upon God for our defense, for our sustenance, for all of our hopes and dreams, and we do what we talked about yesterday, which is our part of that is we meditate on the law of the Lord day and night. We meditate on it day and night. We listen. We fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. As long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he was able to walk on water. But as soon as he looked at the storms around him, he began to sink. And even in his sinking, he was able to cry out, Jesus, save me. And he reached out and he lifted him up and he said, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? So I ask you, oh, you of little faith, why do you doubt? In the midst of this pandemic and stay-at-home orders and not being able to meet in church and the fear of catching a disease, the fear of losing your job, the fear of all of these things, why, oh Lord, do so many assail me? But you are my deliverer. The sooner we learn that God is our deliverer, the sooner we can rest in the peace that passes understanding. Thank you for joining me for Coffee and the Word. I'll see you tomorrow for another edition.
Bring me joy, bring me peace. In your presence there's release. Fill this heart with your love. Let your grace set me